Hey everybody. Ooh, that helped. I felt like I said it. That's like a... that was liberating shit.
Just follow up every 5 seconds of silence with, hey everybody. Get it out.
Just edit it out later.
Yeah.
There's got to be some software that you can literally give it a sample and have it remove that. Holy crap, how easy would that be? Instantly get rid of all my you-knows and ums.
My you-knows. You know?
Well, thanks for sticking with us, guys. Last week we couldn't put out an episode due to a multitude of things, including apocalyptic temperatures where I'm at.
And trolls.
And trolls
under the bridge.
Yeah, my electronics were literally shutting off because it was too hot. I have a bunch of pictures of... I have a thermos inside my house. It's just like 92 degrees at 8:30 at night.
Stupid human technology.
Yeah. Human technology used for weather detection, garbage. But yes, we wanted to say sorry about that. And we also wanted to say congratulations to Deborah Sinclair.
She's a winner, you guys.
She is the winner.
She fucking won.
She won the animation contest of holographic interdimensional creature that feeds off humans or whatever. She drew the one that Mike described,
and it was very cool.
It's fantastic. We're gonna put it up and share it with you guys, possibly even make a sticker of it because it's so well done. So thank you, Deborah, for sending that to us. We'll send you your t-shirt and a couple goodies. And again, guys, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoy the show.
Don't forget to hug your favorite lizard.
Okay.
So, silence.
Okay, Mike, you sent me an article to check out to talk about for tonight's show. And I have to admit, when you sent it to me at first, I was like, a tweaker, great. Where I'm from, that's they're everywhere around here. So I laughed at first. But after reading into it, it got very interesting. And I don't know. I don't even know what we would title this episode after reading this article. So
yeah. How about this one is The Devil Made Me Do It, or maybe I also worship the devil, but kill people as well.
That's going to be great.
That'll be the title for this episode. We did a whole case devoted to the possession of David Glatzel and the Devil Made Me Do It murders with Arne Johnson, yeah. And that was the first recorded case in the United States where demonic possession was used as a defense. And it's not the first time that case was used in modern law, though. There is a case from England that I'll talk about later, but there's a whole lot of, it seems to be kind of an easy way to try to get out of it, saying the devil made me do it. And we saw that with the DeFeos, with that whole thing, which led to the Amityville Horror and that story. And it ties in, and if those murders had never happened, if the DeFeo family had never been murdered by their son, then we probably never would have heard the story of the Amityville Horror, and we would have been deprived of 87,000 B-grade horror movies. And if I'm being honest, that's not a world that I would like to live in.
Yeah, the Warrens may have been full of shit a lot of the times, but I did enjoy those movies.
But it's entertaining shit.
Yeah.
It is entertaining shit. The story of the Amityville Horror scared the shit out of me when I was younger. And I remember my parents told me about it, and they were never they were never into the paranormal. They thought it was all bullshit and everything. but they are very religious, and they were telling me this story about like real demons coming into these people's houses, and it scared the shit out of me. I couldn't believe that such a thing was possible, that demons could actually invade people's houses and do all this scary stuff. But with all things that scared me as a kid, it just made me more interested in it. So I really looked into it, and I still really love the story. It's such an awesome story, and it's basically like those movies that say based on true events, which means somebody got killed somewhere, and as a result, we're making this movie of a supernatural killer that lives in the woods.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing that matches, is that somebody died in the woods. But, you know, that's Hollywood for you. But I find the idea fascinating, and it makes me, so just for argument's sake, let's say, let's take the religious filter off and just look at it for what it is. It's somebody claiming that there's another intelligence inside their mind convincing them to do things.
Can we do that when they're actually naming it as what type of entity it is? A demonic entity?
The thing is that it's being looked at through a modern framework, you know, through what we're aware of, or our religious upbringing, or, you know, even people that aren't religious, they're familiar with the Christian idea of God and Jesus and the devil.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know, that's a well-known thing. So if that's kind of the way that things are framed in your worldview, then it would be easy to say, well, that's a demonic presence. Like, I think it's really the way that the person that's being afflicted by these things is observing it, and these things are clearly psychic in some way, and it might not even be psychic. It just might be that they're hijacking our frequency, and so they're on the same wavelength. So they know what we're aware of, but they also know what they're aware of. But we don't know what they're aware of because they're hijacking our frequency rather than the other way around. So these things, like I've said many times before, with the hauntings and poltergeists and things like that, these things seem to need human energy, and it needs to manifest in order for them to gain sustenance and remain in our realm or our universe, reality, whatever.
That's a good point, because those things definitely always seem like they need to interact with humans.
Yeah. And if they're able to read our thoughts and understand the way that we think about things and the way that we would classify things that would happen, they would play off of that, because that would grant them more power. Because if you're aware of the idea of heaven and hell, and something is inside your mind telling you that it's a demon from hell, that's going to scare the shit out of you.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to be like, oh, cool, I've got a demon inside me. Now I can be awesome. No, they're going to be like, oh, fuck, there is a demon inside of me that's trying to control my body. Like, just the notion of something foreign to yourself controlling you is terrifying. And when put through when it's portraying itself as a demon or some other evil entity, then it's, you know, that adds a whole nother level of terrifying to it.
Yeah.
So it's able to really gain, and even in possession cases, it's a lot like haunting cases, where it'll start small and then it escalates to this full-blown insanity.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mention, and like the whole religion thing and what it is to people, because the first time I saw something, when I saw it, I told my dad about it later, who was the really religious one, you know, like we talked about before. He studied all that stuff. I asked him, what was that? I wasn't seeing stuff. I wasn't making it up. I was like, what was that? And he's like, the best thing I got for you is a demon. And that just made it so much worse. So I understand what you're talking about. It just instantly made it terrifying on a whole different level. What else would you be able to call seeing something like that? Even in a modern time,
Yeah, well, I think it's really all the way that it's perceived. And I think if it was a good thing, something that seemed to have your best interest at heart, that it would be perceived as being an angel, just because that's, angels kind of transcend the religious connotation in a lot of ways. There's people that will believe in a guardian angel that wouldn't consider themselves to be Christian. And but I think that things that came through and showed themselves in a good light would be seen as angels, just like things that come through and try to take control and lash out in negative ways are perceived as demons. But what's kind of interesting is the term demon meaning something that's inherently evil. It's kind of a Western thing, or a Christian thing, really, I guess, because there in a lot of cultures there's things that would be considered demons, but there's good demons and bad demons. And even in going way back to the ancient Babylon and the other Mesopotamian cultures, they would look at demons as kind of like in this gray area. Like let's take the most famous old school demon, Pazuzu. And Pazuzu is a real demon. That wasn't just something made up for The Exorcist, but it was an ancient Babylonian demon it was the demon of the southwest wind, and it was thought to bring in disease and pestilence, but it was also seen by pregnant women as a protector because it would chase away his jealous wife who would try to kill babies.
Whoa.
And take, so back then if a baby was born stillborn, or if it died of unknown causes, as like sudden infant death or something like that, it was attributed to Pazuzu's wife, who was jealous and wanted to kill all the human babies so that no one else could have babies. And Pazuzu would always, the idea was that if they wore amulets of Pazuzu or prayed to Pazuzu, then Pazuzu would protect them. And so he was both feared for bringing disease to the people, but also looked at for saving them by protecting their babies.
Yeah, we see gods like that, like in a Greek pantheon and Roman pantheon, where they have two jobs, I guess.
yeah, like a duality. And they would do some of the stuff that they would do, man, to protect from demons was insane. They would create these clay figurines in the likeness. If someone was possessed and the priest would exorcise them, they would try to get the demon to name itself so they would know who it was. And if they could determine who it was, then what they would do is create a clay figure to represent the person that it was possessing. And then the person it was possessing would have to act like that thing was him. And he would feed it, and he would say, "Look, I'm feeding it just like I feed myself." And give it something to drink. And he'd be like, "Look, I'm drinking it, and so is he. We're the same. Why don't you go in here?" And then the priest would eventually be able to convince the demon to get inside the clay figure. And then he would build a clay figure that looked like the demon's rival. So like whatever spirit was at odds with this particular demon, he would create this little figurine, and they would basically make like this mini arena and have them fight. And so that's how they would get rid of demonic possessions. They would just take make their rivals fight them. And they would invoke the rival spirit and convince the rival spirit to possess this other figurine. And then they would make them fight like Rock'em Sock'em Robot style.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking awesome.
And they'd actually let the winner capture demon go.
Well, I would assume they'd probably destroy the other effigy and then it would just go on its merry way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. It's this whole process and they're like, you know what? Basically, it's going to amount to us playing with toys and seeing who has the better toy. My action figure's better than yours.
Yeah. If we have to deal with this shit, we're going to make it fun. Everybody start making dolls.
Yeah. Make the coolest action figure you can. And whoever's got the best, that'll be the demon protector of our village.
Wouldn't you just make the one that the demon that's bothering you is going to be housed in super shitty, like give him like paintbrush hands and stuff like that, and make the other one hella dope?
Well, the thing was they had to make it represent the person that was being possessed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it was a special. It wasn't just clay. It was like clay and wax and tallow. They would mix this all together and then build these figurines.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In my head, they're still malleable, so they're like making a move like stop motion style, and it's like a real brawl. Oh man, I bet it was awesome. But it makes me just the idea of possession and what it entails. It makes me wonder if maybe in some cases having a weakened mind or a defective mind makes someone more susceptible to that. So with cases of insanity, for instance, where someone says they were possessed by a demon, or even with schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder, are the things that are being seen and heard in those states, what if the person's not crazy? What if they're just, what if what's making them seem crazy is the fact that they're able to perceive another reality that most can't see, and these things that are talking to them really are talking to them, and because their wires are crossed a certain way, they're able to pick up on this, and they're able to these entities are able to latch onto it, and because they know that they can hear them. There's this, but then it is that part of nature. Like is it just like a random act of nature that connects entities to people that are able to see them, or is it the people that are able to interact with these other realities? Are they like a beacon that's shining, like, hey, over here, and inviting these things?
I don't know how natural it is. I think it's natural for whatever these entities are, and their want to attach to people for some reason, like you said a few minutes ago. They need something from us, and apparently what they need is some type of negativity, some type of negative reaction or energy, because they're not showing up and making people pancakes.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, what if that is part of nature, though? Like, look at leeches, for instance. They'll get on someone, latch on, and just start sucking blood from them. It's just part of nature. It's what they do.
Yes, but I don't know. I don't think, humans throughout history have remedies to deal with leeches, and they're not handled by ordained religious figures who know secret ceremonies to battle these.
But things that people don't understand are magic, and having no idea about non-physical reality or reality that we can't perceive on our plane of existence doesn't make it, it doesn't mean it's not natural just because it's not something that we can perceive. It could be here all along, interacting with us on a daily basis, and we're all completely oblivious to it. We could all have other entities that are dwelling within us. Maybe certain flights of fancy we have are a result of one of these beings inside of us being like, hey, you really want to have that cheeseburger. You're like, you know what? I do want a cheeseburger. And it's really just some non-physical entity that's sitting inside your gut that just loves fucking cheeseburgers.
Influencing you in some way.
Yeah, or all the people that suffer with addiction, that no matter what they do, they can't kick it. What if that is something inside of them that's causing that's driving them and preventing them from being able to shake their addiction?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I think that they feed off that negative energy. They have to. That's what they create.
Yeah.
And they just need the interaction, and they're not observing us. They're interacting with people in a negative fashion. And that's how it's always been. And when it's not a negative fashion, they're regarded to as angels. So, I mean, that makes the separation, which is I don't know. That's weird too.
But you never hear about people being possessed by angels. You hear of people channeling angels, which, I mean, really, when I guess when you look at it, it's the same thing, with the only difference being that the person is inviting them rather than being forced into being possessed. But either way, they're still being possessed. You know, when you're channeling angels or aliens, depending on your perspective, I guess, you're still allowing something to act through your body. So it's really the same as possession. Just possession comes out negatively, and you're terrified the whole time, and you're telling priests that their mother sucks cock in hell, which is kind of rude. It's a rude thing to say, and
yeah, he's there to help.
He's just trying to help. Don't tell him about his mother sucking cocks in hell.
So why is Pazuzu so popular?
Well, I don't know why Blatty chose Pazuzu. Maybe he was just looking for something to tie in with his archaeology adventurer priest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know what? We could go look for Babylonian ruins in Iraq. And that's where we'll start off. He'll feel the wind blowing from the southwest. And I think that Pazuzu was well known. He was the demon of the southwest wind, and he blew in the disease, and he protected the women that were pregnant. So he was a pretty significant entity in Babylonian mythology. And so it could have just been as simple as that. I don't know, but The Exorcist is definitely what brought Pazuzu to into the modern minds, I suppose.
I wonder if in The Exorcist how it shows that statue of Padudu and how it's broken, if that was symbolizing it was one of these vessels and Maybe. He was possessing somebody, and that's why Marin felt that wind, is because somebody during digging in the site broke it, and that was the release of the demon.
Yeah, probably. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but Pazuzu is the progenitor of Baphomet. So the old totems of Pazuzu would always show him with one hand pointing up and one hand pointing down, just like all the depictions of Baphomet. And Baphomet came along later, and now he's associated with the devil, but it was a lot different when Baphomet was around initially back in the ancient days. But it was the being of Baphomet was based off of Pazuzu. So Pazuzu, I mean, really kind of lives on in that way now as Satan himself. Is the symbol of Satan himself. It's all spawned from Pazuzu. But maybe Pazuzu really is still around. There was this dude, he illegally changed his name to Pazuzu Algared. And he's, like you said, he's probably a fucking tweaker. He apparently his house was known among this certain group of people as a place where you could go and do whatever you want. So you look at the outside, and the outside looks like a normal house, except for the fact that he painted his front door black. But everything else on the house was normal. But when you walk in, it's just trash everywhere, graffiti all over the walls, broken shit just laying around. And this guy claimed that he worshipped Pazuzu, and on once a month during the black moon, which was the new moon, he would have to sacrifice something to Pazuzu. And usually it would be like small animals, rabbits, kittens, things like that. But the fucked up thing is that his mom completely bought into it and would supply the animals for him. She would bring him these animals for him to sacrifice.
His mom?
His mom.
Jeez.
Absolutely. Yeah. He had his mom convinced that Pazuzu was working through him and that he had to do what Pazuzu wanted, and Pazuzu was going to give him power. And it ended up that he convinced this younger girl to help him kill 2 people in the name of Pazuzu. And she was his girlfriend, but she bought into his bullshit, and they killed a guy named Joshua Wetzler and Tommy Dean Welch. And then they buried their bodies. But they also, they found their skeletons, but they claim that they ate from the corpses after they killed them. And
I'm sure.
Other people that would hang out at the house also said that they were given meat that they didn't know what it was, that tasted different than any other meat they had. And it was around that time that they killed these people in 2008. And so the people that were hanging around that time said that they did try some of this meat, and they suspect that it may have been these 2 people that were killed.
Oh yeah, officer. Old Paz was sure having a lot of barbecues back in 2008. Why do you ask?
But they ended up finding the bodies buried behind the home, and they went to prison. While in prison, Pazuzu, the human Pazuzu,
Pazuzu the man.
Pazuzu the man, not Pazuzu the Demon King. Pazuzu the man tried to convince the guards to allow him to do his monthly sacrifice. And he warned them if he couldn't do this, something bad was going to happen. And then he even tried to enlist the help of his mom. And his mom told the guards that if he wasn't able to make this monthly sacrifice, that he was going to die. And the new moon came and went. He didn't make a sacrifice, and he was found in his cell with scratch marks across his chest and a chunk torn out of the side of his arm, and he had bled to death. He also had fractured ribs. Now, at first, the guards were hesitant to rule it a suicide, but they couldn't find any weapon. They couldn't find any way that these cuts would have happened. But eventually it was determined that it was a suicide. And this Pazuzu the man filed his teeth into points and was able to tear a chunk out of the side of his arm and sever an artery that would allow him to bleed to death.
So they're saying with that he could cause the injuries to, successfully kill himself?
I don't know how he broke his ribs or what the claw marks on his, or I say claw marks, what the scratches on his chest were. Maybe it was just him really fiercely digging at himself to make it look like he was killed by a demon monster.
Yeah, I don't know how much they're examining the corpses of dead tweaker fucking murderers. Yeah. So they're just... No, I mean, because that's easily, you can just look under his fingernails, but I don't know how much.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't really, in the articles that I've read about it, I didn't see anything indicating that they knew how the scratches on his chest were made or why his ribs were broken. But let's say it is self-inflicted. Let's say he did kill himself. What if he wasn't bullshitting, though? What if Pazuzu, or something posing as Pazuzu, was really backing him the whole time and was gaining power off of these sacrifices, and it did get pissed that he didn't make his sacrifice, so it convinced him to sacrifice himself to the entity?
Oh yeah, imagine what that entity had to have said for that to be a good bargain.
I mean, when you have a guy like that, though, who's that devoted to this idea that there's an ancient demon that is granting him power, if you tell him he kills himself, he'll be given more power. You know, you can become like me now, but you need to shed your mortal body, kill yourself, and become like me. And I'm sure that sounded like a pretty good idea. He's like, well, I'm going to prison for murdering 2 people, and I could just kill myself and I could become like Pazuzu.
Yeah,
I could
right?
Be Pazuzu Jr., no longer Pazuzu the man.
The work of your body is over.
Yeah.
It will rot in a cell. Kill thyself and join my ranks.
Join me and I will be your father.
We have endless cocaine in hell.
In hell.
We love the stuff here.
It's weird to me, and it just seems it seems like a really far step to go to prove that you were right. You know, like people think, yeah, he's into Pazuzu. Yeah, okay, whatever. And he's like, I'll show them. I'll tear a chunk out of my arm, and then then they'll have to believe me because Pazuzu did it.
Yeah, that's a little hard to believe. I mean, breaking one's ribs would be a little hard to do and noisy. I mean, somebody would notice some type of commotion like that, I would assume.
Yeah. I don't know, unless maybe the guards worked him over earlier that day or something. Who knows?
What if that's what happened? They sacrificed him to Pazuzu for him. They're like, yeah, here's your little ceremony, fuckball. Just kicked the shit out of him and he died.
Yeah. He was just sitting in his cell and crying to us like, they beat me up. Don't they know I am a Pazuzu? Goddamn it. If they can beat up Pazuzu, I'll show them.
No, it was like a hardcore Christian agent. He was like, hey, Padu Dick. It's that little
dick.
It's your little black moon tonight.
And you're not going to kill nothing.
But I am. In the name of Jesus.
And then these squeals. No, Jesus, no.
And then he proceeds to beat a tweaker to death with his bare hands.
No, not with his bare hands. With an oversized crucifix.
Oh, that would be golden.
Yeah. Maybe it was a golden crucifix. Who's to say? This is all hypothetical, so it could be anything at this point. Could be fucking diamond encrusted crucifix.
Yep. That's 1,000 years old.
Crystallized Jesus tears on a cross.
Ooh.
That's what it was. Collected the tears of Jesus, and we froze them permanently and fused them into this cross to beat Pazuzu to death.
Yep.
And so it was. But that makes me think about, again, Arn Johnson, who said, especially when you've got the case of David Glatzel, who was possessed by these demons, and then he was exorcised and the demon escaped and went into Arn Johnson and caused him to kill someone. Mm-hmm. I don't want to really retread that because we did a full episode on it, so you guys can go back and listen to it if you're really interested in the Devil Made Me Do It murder. But there's another case that I mentioned earlier. It's the case of Michael Taylor, and this happened in 1974 in England. And he lived in Ossett, which is in West Yorkshire. and he attended this Christian fellowship group. And apparently, while he was in this group, he began cheating on his wife with the leader of the group, a woman named Marie Robinson. And at one point, his wife showed up at the group and basically called him out in front of the group, and called out Marie Robinson. And that kind of set Michael off, and he started admitting that he was feeling these evil forces within him. And eventually he started lashing out verbally at Marie Robinson. And then they got into a big fight, and he ended up leaving after this big fight that they had. But he came back to the next meeting, and he went through. He received absolution, which in Christianity, for those that don't know, absolution is when you get forgiven from your sins. So he received absolution, but that didn't seem to help change his the way that he was acting. He was still lashing out and becoming quick to anger, and he was just acting strange, not acting normal anymore. And he said he could still feel these evil forces inside of him. So they ended up getting in touch with the local vicar, and he called in other ministers that were experienced in a process of deliverance, which is kind of like an exorcism. It's not the Roman Catholic exorcism, but it's similar in nature. It's a ritual that's done to drive the demons out of a person that's being possessed. So they set up this exorcism in early October of 1974. They brought Michael into this church, St. Thomas's Church, and Father Peter Vincent, who was an Anglican priest, and he was aided by a Methodist reverend in the process. And they went through this entire ceremony, and they said that he had demons. They were able to cast out at least 40 demons. And they said of the demons that they were forced out, they were able to force out the representations of incest, bestiality, blasphemy, and lewdness. I don't know how they determined the demons that they were driving out. I would assume it was probably they were asking their names, and they were being told what they were putting in his mind. I don't know.
Yeah, they have what they ask, and they have to answer.
Somehow through the process, they were able to glean this information of the demons that they forced out. And they said in the end, they felt that there were still at least 3 demons left inside of him. And they were the demons that represented insanity, murder, and violence. But they let him go home. And once he got home, he murdered his wife, and he choked their dog to death afterwards.
The bastard.
But the way that he killed his wife is absolutely horrifying. He killed her with his bare hands. He tore out her eyes, her tongue, and he almost tore her face off completely.
Oh.
And he ran out into the street afterwards, and the police found him completely naked and drenched in blood.
Holy shit.
So this case, to me, is it could go one of two ways. If you're so you can go the extreme skeptical route that the man was crazy and that the exorcism made his delusions real, and because he felt like he was possessed by demons, he was able to commit these horrible acts because the demons were in him, and he was given proof that the demons were in him by the fact that an exorcism was done. Or you can look at it for what the claim is, that he actually was possessed. And there was events leading up to this. He had erratic behavior. He started cheating on his wife. But then again, the whole cheating thing, maybe that's what drove him to it. Maybe he didn't like his wife, and he was really digging this Marie Robinson girl, and they were really into each other. And then his wife showed up and called him out in front of everyone. So he felt attacked, lashed out, got in a fight with Marie Robinson, left, got absolution, basically said he was sorry. He didn't want to cheat on his wife, etc., etc. And then he started feeling bad about it. He started feeling guilty. Maybe he started missing Marie Robinson. Maybe he really wanted to be with Marie Robinson. Who knows what was going on there? But it drove him nuts. And then he just kept saying, I'm feeling this evil. And maybe that was like his excuse for doing the things that he was doing. Like, I just feel this evil inside me. I can't control it. Somebody call me a priest. And then they call in the priest, and they give him the exorcism. And he's like, oh, I feel so much better, but I feel like I need to murder. And then he destroys his wife for ruining his relationship with Marie and embarrassing him in front of his church group. And then he ended up going to trial, and he was acquitted on the grounds of insanity.
Oh.
He got to spend 2 years in a hospital, and then he spent an additional 2 years in a secure facility. But then he was released. So 4 years away from public for tearing his wife's face off with his bare hands.
Oh my God. I don't mean to laugh, but Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Now, this guy, in 2005, had a run-in with the law again. And this time, it was for another horrific crime. He indecently was touching teenage girls.
Come on, man.
So, he went to prison this time. A week into his prison sentence, he started exhibiting the same sort of behavior that he had experienced before he killed his wife. And then they ordered him to get psychological treatment again. And during that time, he did attempt to commit suicide in 4 different times.
Oh, he couldn't get it right once?
No, but who knows? Maybe he tried and the demons wouldn't let him. Maybe he had more work to do, and he's like, I just want to go back and hang out with my Christian fellowship group. And now I'm in a mental institution because you guys made me kill my wife and touch teenage girls. And they're like, sucker. He's like, I'm going to end it all. And they're like, oh, are you? No, you're not. You're going to miss that vein. Oh, you're going to commit suicide? No, that rope's going to break.
Yeah.
So,
you're going to throw up those pills in your sleep, buddy.
Yep.
What a douchebag. Oh, man. I almost want to look up victim photos, but I've seen people with their faces ripped off by animals.
God.
So
no, thank you.
Yeah,
not at all. I want nothing to do with that shit.
I mean, that's pretty rough and rare, even in the world of killers.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
I mean, that really shows that's not something that you could do just to do. Like if you're trying to kill your wife and you've got the intent to kill your wife, you're gonna
pursue an affair.
Yeah. You're gonna like maybe strangle her or drown her in a toilet or poison her, something. Maybe even shoot her. You're not gonna tear out her eyes and pull out her tongue and rip her face off with your bare hands. Like, just really think about how much effort would go into trying to tear someone's face off with your bare hands.
Oh, dude, I used to be a butcher. Try to get a fucking animal leg off a carcass even after cutting it. It's work. That's real work. And I mean, even like cutting oxtails and shit like that. Just ripping out somebody's tongue. That's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Like that's either like you hate that person and want them to suffer more than anything, or you're not in your right mind,
Yeah.
or something's controlling you. It's like, it's just so violent and excessive.
Man, there's an old picture from way back in the day, from the high school days, and it was of a meth head. I've probably mentioned it on the show before, but it was of a meth head who got super duper spun out on coke and thought it would be a good idea to cut his own face off with a piece of broken beer bottle glass, and it was like a pink Ghost Rider.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Well, in the bottom of the picture, the caption said, "The patient survived. He came through with no face." I mean, like literally looking like Ghost Rider.
That's fucking. Ugh.
Yeah,
God.
it was like a medical thing. It was like, you know, the methamphetamines provided enough adrenaline to keep him alive long enough to be stabilized. I'm like, oh my goodness. So coke can make you do some pretty horrific things too, but this guy's not doing coke.
But maybe it wasn't the coke though. Maybe the coke just allowed his mind to get tampered with by one of these things.
Yeah, I mean that's like you said before. That's the people they're looking for. You know, like you were talking about being more attracting those things more. What causes them to come around, and that like schizophrenia, all that stuff. And I'd even say anxiety, nervousness, and stuff like that. They look for anything that they can feed off of and plant any type of fear. I think anyway.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be. I feel like a possession is exactly the same as a haunting. The only difference is where the thing is residing. Is it whether it's residing inside the person or inside the house? But either way, they're living inside of something and drawing the human negative energy out.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of cases, not only drawing it out, but being the cause of it and feeding off of it. You'll always hear about people that have hauntings in their house. A lot of times there'll be a lot of fighting that goes on, and people that are possessed tend to get really they tend to get into a lot of conflicts or lash out angrily for no reason as things are escalating. And it's the same sort of stuff. Like I said, it starts out small and it gets more powerful and batshit the more energy it gets. It's
true. That's what they say. I mean, with all the major cases, most believable cases, there's always that gradual build. And a lot of times they mention that, just tension between people living in the house. You know, and with hauntings, in the cases to where a haunting starts with small poltergeist-like activity, then turns to banging on the walls, and then somebody gets possessed. I wonder what causes that jump from occupying the house to occupying somebody's body. I wonder if it's just a matter of time of feeding on whatever it needs. I mean, because
or maybe it's a bond. Maybe it's, you know, they'll get into the house and then they have a favorite victim, and it ends up being like, you know what? I think I want to be inside that victim. And then they jump in. And especially if you think about like a weakened mental state, if someone is dealing with a horrifying haunting and they're not sleeping at night, they're constantly stressed out, there's negative emotions in the house, they're going to be frazzled, and their mind is not going to be as fortified as it otherwise would be. And this thing can prey on that. And a lot of times you'll hear, like in the David Glatzel case and in a lot of possessions, it never seems to be just one demon or one entity. So is it a thing like where one gets in and then he calls all his friends up like, hey, found a new party spot, and then all his buddies show up with their fucking Bud Light and their and there's shitty music.
Yeah.
And their Jeep Wranglers.
I wonder if once one gets in, that door is he's able to hold open that door.
Yeah, Yeah, he's able to provide the beacon now. Like, he lights the signal fire once he's in there, and then all his buddies come in.
That's scary shit to think about.
Yeah, it is. And are you familiar with Rachel Stavis at all? Have you ever heard of her?
I don't think so.
She is I think she's written a book or two, but she's this woman who's able to she says that she's able to see the things that are living inside of people, like the things that possess people. And she said a lot of time people are possessed and don't even know it. And it's not like the crazy spinning your head around, swearing at priests and lashing out and doing shit like that. It takes a more insidious approach where it'll get inside of you and it'll be a specific thing, like an addiction, and it'll keep that addiction going. Like you feel like you need to keep that going, and or it'll force you into doing self-destructive behavior, like people that cut are being guided by a being of some sort that's inside of them, and they just kind of they're like psychic leeches, kind of, but they live inside of people, and she's able to see them, and she has learned how to get rid of them, and she doesn't even charge people money. Like she does it because she feels like she knows how to do it.
Wow.
And, yeah. So she's not out there trying to make money off this. She's trying to help people, and she's been on a lot of different podcasts, and I'm pretty sure she's got a book too. And but she's really interesting. But her perspective is that these things are everywhere, and they're all over people. And given the chance, they will find their way in, and they'll make you feel like it's something, you know, like if you have an addiction, it'll cause you to feel like you need that addiction. You can't get rid of it. And even if she said she's even come across cases where she has talked to the person who's got this thing in them that's causing them to do a certain behavior, and the person they're resistant to change their behavior. And then they find out that it's this being inside of them. And when they find that out, they don't want to get rid of it. They want to keep it.
Huh.
And she said she's even had cases where she's gotten rid of it, and the person comes back a few days later and asks if she can help them get it back.
Whoa. So there's some type of
like
drive that it has that they were attracted to.
It develops that bond, and it makes it like that almost makes me think of like Venom. Like, remember in the comics when Eddie Brock lost Venom? How he was just like lost.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it was lost too. It came back to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah. Nerds.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.